Hey, hi everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you all had a great time with your friends and the family on the occasion of the New Year. So again, I wish you all a very happy New Year. First of all, thank you so much for your feedback. I can see all the comments in my first video, and I really appreciate your time that you have put it all the comments. You have shared your feedback in the comments. And I can see it like your eagerness to watch the next video. So here we are. In this video, we're going to discuss about the Power Pages components. Okay, so those who are new to this video, I just wanted to give them a quick recap about my this initiative. So this is basically a new initiative I took this new year, where I just wanted to discuss about the portal within 30 days. So my main objective is to cover all the concepts of the portals from beginners to advanced using the 30 videos I'm gonna produce in this 30 days of span of time. And in this 30 days, the first video I have already released on New Year, and that was about introduction of the Power Pages and the Dataverse. So if you are new to this series, I just wanted to request you like just go and check out my first video first, so that at least you will know about the fundamental concepts of the Power Pages. Okay, so in that video, actually, I discussed about the Power Platform fundamental concepts, Dataverse, and the Power Pages, and some interesting facts about the Power Pages, its history, what are its real life customers, how the life cycle works, how its architecture works. So that video is very mandatory before you watch the second video. Okay, so just a quick introduction about me. My name is Arpish Srivastava. I'm a two times awarded Microsoft MVP in the business application. I'm a micro certified trainer, and I'm working as a Power Platform architect in Capgemini, Sweden. I've been writing blogs since 2014. So if you just wanted to check out my website, my YouTube channel, it's a Arpit Power Guide. So where I'm, posting and putting a lot of interesting stuff related to the Power Platforms. Okay. So if I talk about the challenge, this 30 days learning challenge, I'm going to cover all the 30 videos within a month. And one video is already released, Introduction to the Power Pages. And today is the time where we're going to discuss about the second video, that is understand the Power Pages components. Okay, so components are the core of the Power Pages that is basically used to design the portals. Okay. So I can use the term portals, Power Apps portals, Power Pages, low code, no code websites. So don't be confused with that because everything is same. Okay, so Power Pages is just a new branding and nothing else of the Power Apps portal. So I also discuss about that in my last session as well. The difference between the Power Apps portals and the Power Pages. Okay. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the session. Our main topic is the Power Pages components. Okay, so what is the basic question that when you ask when you have to design a website? Okay, the most common questions about uh, the business websites are, how do I design the website and manage its content? Okay, because if you see any website or the portal available in the market, what is there on the website? The first thing is the design of it, and the second thing, how you are managing the data to it, right? So website is basically about the content and the data and the design, right? So this is the main thing. So if you have to design the portal, if you have to design the website, how gonna I design that website? Okay, what sort of coding language I have to use it? What sort of tools I have to use it? Or what sort of components I have to use it to design that particular website? Okay, and how can I manage the content on the website? Now, the second thing is that if you're designing a website, obviously you have to display the data to your customers, okay, to your public audience, and where this data is going to store. Okay, and how what is the way to bring that data from that database to the portal. Okay, so this is the basic the most common questions about the business website. Okay, now if I talk about the portal, this is the structure of the portal. So if I talk about the Power Pages site, it is basically made up of two things. The first thing is the designing, and the second thing is the data. Okay, so in order to design the Power Pages, you need the portal components. Okay, we can call it as a Power Pages components as well. Okay, And if I talk about the data, so data is basically going to store in the Microsoft Dataverse, and the portal components also stored in the Microsoft Dataverse. So as I talked about in my last video as well, the Microsoft Dataverse is the database that is basically used to store all sort of stuff related to the Power Pages, whether it's a components, whether it's a data. Okay. So data means like your contact tables data, your accounts table data, your leads, your opportunities, your business data. Okay, so these are the tables I'm just explaining to you. So these are the some of the tables that we usually use it when you design any portal or when you expose the data to the customer. So these are the common tables we use it: account, contacts, lead, opportunity, products, right? And if you're using if you're creating the portal for the customer services, then you use the case tickets. So these kind of stuff, right? And if you have to design the portal, then you have to use the portal components. So portal components basically also stored in the Microsoft Dataverse only. Okay, so this is the main thing. Now, if I talk about all the portal components, so I try to cover all those components in a single picture. So though I'm going to discuss all these components individually in the live environment, so you will understand that how the components looks like, what are the configuration of it, what are the attributes that we have to use it, what are the properties of it. But just a single picture view, I just try to embed all the components in a single picture. Now, when you install a portal, so portal is nothing but a website. Okay, so just imagine like once you install the portal, whether it's a custom portal or probably there are different templates are there. So what type of portal you install it, there is a website record gets created, okay, in the database. So for example, if you are creating 5 portals or installing 5 portals in your Microsoft Dataverse environment, then the 5 websites record gets created. Okay, so the number of website is actually depend on number of portal you are going to install in your Microsoft Dataverse environment. Okay, so let's say I'm first installing a portal, and that actually creates a website in the Dataverse. Now that website is just a record in the Dataverse which holds all the information about the portal. Okay, the name of the portal, okay, the domain that you are going to use, and the URL of the portal. So these kind of stuff, what kind of language you are going to use with the portal. So this all the information you can find it in the website record. Okay, now what is website binding? So the second component is the website binding. So I try to, you know, put all these components in a specific order so that you should understand all these, components in that particular order so that you can remember as well while I'm going to create the live portal for you. Okay. So website binding, as you can understand, it's just a binding. It's just a connection that makes it with the website. Okay, so just creating a website in your Dataverse environment doesn't mean that you hit the URL and you can just see the output of the portal. You can just check the UI of the portal. Website binding is kind of connection string. So if you might have worked with the .NET portal and some other languages portal, you keep the connection string in the web config, right? So that, or maybe if you have ever created any .NET application, console application, and you're trying to connect your application with the Microsoft Dynamic 365 or the Dataverse, then you have to keep your that API URL or the connection string in the web config, the username, the password, or whatever. If you're using OAuth authentication, then probably the client ID, secret keys, so these kind of tenant ID, you have to keep it in the web config. And that web config is basically used to make your connection with your server, right? Then only you can see the output. So when you run your Visual Studio Code, it goes to the web config. It pulls all the configuration back to the code. Then you can connect to the server. Then you can display the data on the portal. So same like that way, if you have to connect the website, we have the website binding. So website binding is basically used to make the connection, right? So when you hit the portal URL, it first goes to the website binding, and website binding is basically referred to the website. Okay, so when you hit the portal URL, let's say https:// powerguide.powerapps.portals.com. Okay, so when you hit this URL, the website binding which is connected to this particular URL will call the website which is associated with that website binding. Okay, so when we will see in the live environment, we will see how the website binding is linked to the website. So let's say if I have 5 websites or 5 portals installed in my Microsoft Dataverse environment, so that means I have the 5 website bindings will be available. Okay, and each website binding will link or will refer to a individual website, so that when you hit that particular individual portal URL, that particular website will be, open in your browser. And all these components are linked to the website only. Okay, now website is there, website binding is there. The next is the web page. Okay, now what is web page? So I'm going to discuss about in more details about the web page in the live environment, but just a quick overview of web page is it's like a container. Okay, so anything you want to display on the portal, whether it's a content, it's your, you know, so as you can see in the middle section of the picture, we have the localized contents. I'm going to discuss about that later. But web page, what information you want to display on the portal, whether you want to display the form, whether you want to display the multi-step form, a list. So these are the different types of components. I'm going to discuss about that later. But what you want to show it on the portal, whether it's a form or the list of data, or you want to display any custom HTML page, whatever it is, you need a page on the portal, right? So web page is basically a placeholder, or it's a container where you display the information. Okay, so every time when your customer or when your client is asking to, display something on the portal, the first thing strike it to your mind that I have to create the web page first. Now then later on you have to decide whether I have to use the forms, whether I have to use the list, or whether I have to use any custom, HTML or stuff on the portal. But first you need to have the web page. Okay. Now the web page is basically connected to the localized content, the fourth order in this picture. Localized content. What is localized content? So localized content is nothing but the child web pages. Okay. So when you create any new web page in your Power Pages environment, it automatically creates the localized content. Okay. And how many localized content will be created? The localized content will depend on number of languages you have in the portal. Okay, so this is the new concept that Microsoft has announced that actually provide you the multilingual capabilities in the portal. Okay, so before the Power Apps portal, there was no actually a feature in the portal that provides the multilingual support. Okay, and it was quite complex to design the multilingual portals. But nowadays, the portal supports the multilingual capabilities, and the localized content is basically used to, perform that multilingual capabilities. Now, what is the significance of using localized content? So let's say you are creating a web page. Okay. Now in that web page, you are creating a portal for a multi-region client where your portal, opens in the Australia, US, or in the Europe regions. Okay. So different language of clients or customer logs into your portal, and they need the information that is being displayed on the portal in their own languages. Okay. So if the portal is being open in the in the Sweden, then the language should be in the Swedish language. If the portal is being open in the Germany, then it should be in the German language. So something like that. Okay, so how we can do that? And the web page will remain same. Okay, so web page is basically the concept where it is connected to the multiple localized content. Okay, so for example, let's say I have installed 2 languages in my portal, German and the Swedish. So these 2 languages I have installed. So when I will create a new web page, it will automatically create a 2 localized content for me and will associate with the web page. The first localized content will be for Swedish language, and 1 localized content will be for German language, and so on. If you have 5 languages, then 5 localized content will be created. Now, the beauty of that, it might be possible that for German language, you want to do some extra, customization on your web page. And for a Swedish customer, you want to do some additional things on the language, but the page will remain same. Okay, so for that purpose, we have the concepts of the localized content. Okay, it's not like you have enabled 10 languages on the portal, and every time you are creating 10 different web pages for the each customer who are belongs to the different languages. You don't need to do that. You have to create a single web page and the localized content will automatically create it. You don't need to create the localized content manually. OK, it will automatically create it based on the languages installed in your portal environment. All right, this is about that. So whatever configuration you have to do it. So for example, I have to display form on the portal. So you have to associate that with the localized content of that particular language. OK, so you have to do all the configuration at the web page level and at the localized content level both. OK, now once you have the localized content, then you have to associate that localized content with a specific component that you want to display on the portal. So if you have to display the form, then you have to associate the form with the localized content. If you have to display the multi-step form, then you have to associate with the multi-step form with the localized content. Okay. So don't confuse with the naming of all these components. I'm going to discuss about all these components in the live environment so that you will understand better what is basic form, what is multi-step form, what is list. But just imagine these are all the types of component that is basically used to display the data on the portal in a different format. Okay. Now, the components which is marked with a yellow color, they are basically the security related components. OK. Now the portal security is basically ensured by two things. The first is authentication and the second is authorization. And it is not only about the portal or the power pages, any website in this world. OK, every website is secured by two basic security mechanism. The first is authentication and the second is authorization. OK, so authentication, you can see it on the top in the right panel. Authentication is there. There are different types of authentication or the identity provider that Microsoft has provided. So authentication, basically you need to prove your identity, that who are you. OK, and then once you prove your identity, whether and it's not only that you have to use only Microsoft provided identity provider or the authentication mechanism like Azure AD, Azure AD B2C, but there are some external authentication provider comes to the picture, like you have the LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google, and some custom authentication providers, SAML based authentication, OAuth authentication, these kind of authentication you can use it. Okay, so different types of authentication is there. So once you come to the website, you hit the URL, you see the portal, and the first security comes to the picture when you log into the portal. So that is the authentication. You have to prove your identity, whether you are an authenticated user or not, in regardless of any kind of identity provider you are using. Once you prove your identity that you are a valid user in the database, then authorization basically is the mechanism that actually check whether you are authorized to view the data. Authentication is just to prove your identity, and authorization is basically make sure like is basically ensure like what kind of data you can see it on the portal. Okay, so there are different types of components are there that ensure the authorization of the Microsoft Dataverse data. The first is web role, and then table permissions, page permission, and the column permissions. OK, I'm going to discuss about that in the live environments. But just understand these things, that these are the four components that basically use for the authorization purpose. OK, so for example, I am logging to the portal, but I just wanted to see all the employees working in my organization. OK, so in that case, if I don't, I am logging to the portal, but I'm still not able to see the employees who is working in my organization. That means I have the proper authentication enabled, but I don't have the authorization. I don't have the rights to view the data, right? So authentication doesn't mean that you have privilege to, access everything in your organization, especially in the case of Power Pages, where your data is getting stored in the Microsoft Dataverse. And Microsoft Dataverse is the common database where your internal employees information or other customer information is also getting stored. So it is necessary that your data, because that Microsoft Dataverse can have some sensitive information, some confidential information as well, that you may not want to expose it to the unauthorized users, right? So it is required that there should be proper authorization should be in place. in the latest this Power Pages version, or the latest version of the portal, Microsoft has enabled two new security enhancement that I discussed in my last video. There is a firewall settings that you can do it at the Azure level. Okay. And the second is the CDN. Okay. Content delivery network. Okay. So these two features that Microsoft also introduced. So it's a tight security between your client and the server. Okay. Now, the web page, as I talked about, that is the main thing, or that is the main placeholder where you're going to show all your Microsoft Dataverse data. So the main root page is the home page. Okay, so the home is basically the root page. So let's say if my portal URL or my website URL is https://contoso.com, then the home page URL will be like this. Now, what is partial URL? Partial URL is basically the name of your, the page that you want to show it on the portal in the URL. Okay. So for example, the contoso.com is the partial URL will be, will remain blank. There is no partial URL for the home page because it's a root page. Okay. Now all the pages that you are creating in your portal environment, it will always be connected with the home page because home is the root page, right? Because when you install the portal or when any customer logs into the portal, the first page they view it on the website is the home page, right? So that's why the home page is considered as a root page. So all the child pages you created will have to create it under the home pages. Okay. Now let's say I have created three new pages, Contoso services, news, and about Contoso, right? And I captured the partial URL as services. So you can imagine like after my main portal URL, whatever it is showing in the URL, it will explain as a partial URL. So Contoso services backpage name, partial URL name is services. So it shows like contoso.com/services. Okay. And for news pages, I want to keep my partial URL as news. So whatever the name of the page I was just wanted to display in the URL, it is called a partial URL. Okay. Now under the news, I want to create two new child pages called IPO announcement and the January news. Okay. So again, you can see it in the URL news/IPO. So IPO is the partial URL. So this is how your web page looks like on the portal. So when you create a web page, how does it render on the portal? You can have multiple child pages as well. So it's a nesting of the pages basically, right? And whatever how many levels of nesting you are doing, you can simply check it in the URL as well in the form of partial URL. All right. Okay, so we understand all the components briefly. Now let's have a look all the components in the live portal. So how all the components looks like in the live portal. Let's have a look. So when you install any portals in your Power Platform environments, so in this video, I'm not going to discuss about how to install the portal and how your environments looks like, because that I'm going to cover it in the lab one. That is, I think, the fourth video, where we're going to have all the things that we're going to discuss in the live environments. So just wait for the fourth video. From that video onwards, we're going to discuss about everything from the scratch, that how to create the Power Pages environment, how to install the portals, how the portals components looks like, and everything. We're gonna do that. But since I just wanted to make you understand like how all the components looks like in the Power Pages environment, you just need to go to the make.powerappsportals.com, and once you install the portal, I also discussed that in my last video. You see two components here. Okay, two apps here, not the components, two apps here in the make.powerapps.com in a particular environment. Okay, now the first app is basically the portal app. Okay, and that is basically used to edit your portal in the Power Pages Designer Studio. Okay, so that is basically the studio or the designer studio that is basically used to design your portal. Your Power Pages, your how to add the forms, list, and everything. But there is second way as well that you can also use it if you have to design your portal, that is model driven app. Okay, so this is the portal app and this is the model driven app. So portal apps always gets created with the same name of the portal name. So whenever I create a portal, it always asks the name of the portal or the website. So it always create a portal app with the same name, and the portal management app will remain same. Okay, so no matter how many website or how many portals are installed, the portal management app will remain same. So that is the model driven app that is basically used to manage your portal. That's why it's called it portal management. Okay, so if I have to see all the components, I'm not going to use the Power Pages training designer app, because I'm not going to design it right now. I just wanted to see all the components of the portal. I just want to manage them. So I simply click on this model driven app, and it opens a model driven app where I can see all its component in the left panel. Okay, so I can start with this like a website. So all the website related components will be combined in the website section. Content. So if you have to manage the content of the website, then you have to use all these components. Security related components. So Microsoft has basically grouped all these components based on the purpose of it. Okay, so if you have to manage the security, then we have the security related components. If you have to manage the content, then you have the content related management. So content is basically the data, that how you want to display the data, and that data could be your static data, and that data can be that you want to display from the database as well. Okay, and this is the website. Okay, now the first thing is that I was discussing about is the website. So as you can see here, there could be a multiple websites available based on the number of portals installed, but just ignore the other pages. This is the first website you just have to concentrate on. So when you open a website, you can see all the website related details. You can find it. So this is the domain name of my website, Cap Power Pages Training, and this is the common domain that the Microsoft uses when you install any portal. But obviously you can change it by just enabling the SSL certificate, or just enabling the custom domain feature of it, right? So you can just change it as well. Default language is English. So if you have not enabled any specific language, then the default language is always be the English in your Power Portal environment. Who is the owner who have installed this portal, and how the header will be looking like on the portal, how the footer will look like. So everything, every website has a header, has a footer and a body. Okay, so header is footer is already decided, and what should be there in the body. So in the body you want to display what kind of content, so that you can decide it from the top panel. Okay, in the body, whether you want to display the list of records or list of data, whether you want to display the forms, whether you display the multi-steps forms. So that is basically decide the body of the website. And this is the header, this is the footer. I'm going to discuss about that later, that how headers looks like, how footer looks like. But let's understand first like how the components looks like. So right now the language that is installed is the English. Okay, but if I go to the portal languages here, around 48, I guess. Okay, 50. So three new language introduced. So 50 plus languages that is already there in the portal instance. Okay, so it doesn't means like you have the 50 languages in the portal languages table, that it automatically enabled it to your live environment. First of all, that particular language should be enabled in your environment as well. Okay, so you need to enable that particular language pack in your database environment, then only you can enable that language. Okay, so this is about the website. Now this website basically it's just a record. It doesn't mean that the website gets created. So as you can see here, the caps power pages training is the name of my portal. So if I copy this and hit this URL in the browser, it will automatically takes me to the login page first. Since I'm already logged in with the Azure AD, then it automatically opens it up. Okay, so it's just a simple website. It's just a skeleton of the website. So footer is already there, header is already defined, and this is the body where I have to display my content and the data. Okay, so there are three sections of the website. Okay, and everything I can manage it from the tools. Sorry, from the Power Pages components only. All right. Now go back here. So I was just talking about that I just hit this URL, and it doesn't mean that I just created a website record and it will appear here. Okay, it is basically connected to the website binding. So website binding is the second component. So if you can see here, if I open this website binding, so the name of binding is the name of the portal, and is basically connected this binding with this particular website. Okay, so as I told you earlier in my slide deck, that each website binding is associated with a single website record. So whenever you are, and this is the site name as well. Okay, so whenever you are hitting the URL, this website binding gets called from the background or from the server side code of the Microsoft, and it automatically opens this website. So if I remove this website record from here, it will not gonna work. Or if you mistakenly deleted the website binding, your portal will not work. Your portal will completely down. Okay. So you need to make sure every time that your website and website binding should be there. Website is there, then website binding should also be there. All right. And you can simply, if you just want to change the binding or the connection your with your website with some other website binding with the website, you can just simply change that and link this website to a different website as well. So that is also possible. So this is website and the website binding. Now let's come to the third thing is the basic forms. Okay, so I'm just not the basic form. The first we'll discuss about the web pages. So in the same order in which I have discussed in the slide deck. Now the web pages is basically a container, as I already discussed. It is basically used to display the information on the portal. So if I go to the portal here, if I have to display the list of all the events, so let's say I'm designing the portal for event management purpose, okay, or for the training purpose, where I want like when any attendees or the participant visiting my portal, they can see all the events, all the boot camps, or all the sessions are being organized in the future. Okay, so I just wanted to display all this data. So first of all, I need a web page. Okay, and then only in that web page I can display whatever information I want. Okay, so this is the web page. So if you have to create the web page, you first need to click on the web page, come to the web page. Some of the web pages will already be there. So if you can see here, I already have 50, I think 94 web pages is there. So some of the default web pages are already installed in your portal. So once you install the portal, some of the data gets already created. So if you need them, you can keep it in your environment, or if you don't want to use them, then you can delete it them as well. Okay, just for avoiding taking extra spaces in the Microsoft Dataverse. Now, if I have to create a new web page, so just click on new, and here you have to fill some of the basic details like the name of the page. So that should be the meaningful name, and then the website. Okay. So in which website you want to display that web page. Okay. So there could be multiple website as well. And the one web page can be associated with the multiple website as well. So website is basically this. And sorry, my bad. So one page can be associated with a single website, but one website can have multiple pages as well, right? So you can decide the website parent page, as I told you in my slide deck, like parent page are most of the cases is the home page, because home is the root pages, unless you have a specific requirement that you have to create the nesting of the pages like home page, then you have child page 1, then child page 2. So if you have a specific requirement to do the nesting of the pages, then you can select that appropriate pages. Otherwise, you can just choose the home page because all the pages are expected to be associated with the root web page. All right. Partial URL, the meaningful name that you want to display in the URL. So for example, like if I open this page, since it is the home page, so there is no, partial URL after the main URL. But the basic, if you want to display any specific page, then let's say I'm just, take the feedback. Okay, so put the slash and I'll just put feedback. Okay. Okay. Now this feedback is basically the partial URL. And you always need to make sure that don't use any special characters here. You can use the spaces for the better understanding of the page, because sometimes users see the the web page name and understand with that what is the purpose of that web page, so that a layman person who don't know, who don't have the technical knowledge, they can also understand with the page URL that what is this page is supposed to do, right? So for example, I can keep this page name is submit feedback. Okay. So don't use any technical language, something like that, like submit web page. Don't use some, this kind of language here. You can use this kind of name in the name section, but don't use it in the partial URL because it's gonna display it to the end users. All right. So this is the partial URL. Page template. Page template is basically decide like how the UI of the web page will look like. Okay, I'll discuss about that later, but first let me explain the web page's properties first. But just imagine like, you know, uh, the template is basically used in any coding language for the reusability purpose, right? That's why we create the templates, like the email templates. So we don't need to write the same email again and again. So we include the templates in it, right? So in the similar way, there are certain templates that Microsoft has defined. Some of the templates are server side. That means you cannot change those templates, but some of the templates you can create your own as well, right? So for example, sometimes you are following a specific branding of your organization and you want like these certain pages should have the same format, should have the same branding, and you don't want to write the same code again and again. So you can just create a template of the HTML code or the CSS and the script, and you can use that template in your web page. Okay, because web page is just like a blank canvas, right? It doesn't display anything unless you use any specific template forms and all. Okay, so page template is about that. Publishing state is basically whether you want to publish that particular web page to the portal. Okay, so there are basically two type of state for each and every component. So not only with the web page, if you take the publishing state, there are basically two states. These are for the different site, but there are basically two state, published and the draft. Okay, unless you keep the state as a published, it will not be displayed on the portal UI. Okay, so always make sure that whatever components you are creating, it's not about the web page. There are list of components are there, and each and every component will have this property called publishing state. Okay, so always you have to choose the published here so that it will be published on the portal. Okay, so since I have different websites available, that's why for each website we have a different state. So since my website is ASP, so this is the published state. Okay, now the magic is that your page is created. Okay, now what information you want to display on the portal, whether you want to display the form, whether you want to display the list, or whether you want to display the multi-step form. So out of box, there are three options you can, display on the web pages. Okay. Now, what is basic form? Okay. So since it is already there here, so I can discuss about that. Basic form is basically, it is basically a form like any other website. If you have to display a form on the web page, just to take the user input. So there could be a multiple requirement. You need a feedback form, you need the registration form, inquiry form, or it depends on your business requirement, right? So when the customer is facing any issues, you can have a complaint form, escalations form. So different kinds of form you can have. So for that purpose, you have the basic form. Okay. What is multi-step form? So basic form is basically it's a single form. Okay. So there might be a requirement where you have to take the user input in the multiple steps. And if you have to take the user input in a single step, then you can use the basic form. It's just a simple form. But imagine you have to take the user input in the multiple steps. Now, what kind of requirement it could be? So let's say, let's imagine you are applying for a job in the career portal. Okay, and where you might have you have might the website might have asked some information like your personal details. Okay, then the second step you have to provide your professional details. Then the third step you have to provide your project experience. Then you have to provide then in the next step you have to submit all your documents. So these kind of information you have to provide in the multiple steps, right? Let's say I'm using the event management portal and I just wanted to register for a particular event. Okay, as a speaker, if I have to submit my details, I can submit my details in the multiple steps. First, my speaker profile where I can fill my all the details like my first name, last name, email, and my mobile number. Then I have to provide my social media details, my website, my YouTube, my LinkedIn, my Twitter. Then I have to provide my speaker experience, that how many trainings I have conducted in my past years, how many sessions I have already given, what is my experience as a speaker. So these kind of details I have to provide it. Then at last I have to provide you know the title of the session, the description of the session, the technical level of it, and the target audience. So these kind of things, right? So I have to submit my details in the multiple steps. So such kind of situation, you need the multiple steps form. Now, what are the properties of these components? We're gonna look in the individual components step, that how many properties are there in the basic forms. Okay, but these are the three components you can associate with the web page to display the information on the portal. But it's not like that you can only display multi-step form, list, and the basic form. Okay, list I forgot. So list is basically when you submit the data. So obviously form is used to submit the data, whether it's a multi-step or whether it's a basic step form. Okay, so list is basically used to display that submitted data. So let's say I have submitted for 5 trainings. I have submitted my nomination for 5 trainings. I have submitted my, I have applied for a job for the 6 organizations. So all the list of 6 organization, all the 5 trainings events I should see in the list. Okay. So list is basically used to display the list of data. So this is basically are the components you can use it. Now comes to the localized content. Okay, so as I told you, each web pages has its own localized content. So let's say I'm opening any existing web page to make you understand like how it looks like. Probably, okay, let me open this one, course one. Okay, so you can see here page template is there, publishing state is published, and the name of the web page, website to which it is associated. It is connected to the home page, partial URL, create course. Okay. Now, if you can see the same name of the web page, there is a localized content got created, but just focus on the language here. If you can see here, I have enabled only English language in my portal environment. So only one localized content got created. Okay. And this localized content is nothing but the web page only, but it has 1:2 in relation with the parent web page. Okay. So the number of localized content or number of child web page will depend on the number of languages I have enabled. So let's say I have enabled Swedish language and the Japanese language. So I can find 3 languages, the 3 localized content here. So there is a plugin which runs in the background on create a web page. So you don't need to care about that because it's a managed solution. So as soon as you create a new page, it takes 3 to 4 seconds of time because there is a plugin which runs in the background and it automatically creates the localized content based on the number of languages it's enabled. Okay. So on the web page, you just need to provide these basic settings, the name, the parent page, the partial URL. That's it. You don't need to configure any additional things. The only one thing that is remaining that I'm discussing about it in the security part, that is access control rule. Okay, there are some other properties are there, but I'm not going to discuss about those because these properties you don't use it frequently. So if you just wanted to check it out, like what is the significance of display date, release date, expiration date, and some other properties, you can just follow the MS Docs articles or MS Learn article. I can paste it in the description box and you can check that out, that what is the significance of this each paper, the properties. But the main property I already discussed that 99% cases you don't use it, but the main property you use it most frequently. I've already discussed that. Okay. Now localized content. So as I was discussing about web page, you have to provide only basic details. But in the localized content, if you have to write any JavaScript, if you have to write any HTML code, or if you have to write any CSS, then you have to write it in the content page, not in the web page. Because if you are putting all this coding related stuff on the web page, it's not gonna work. Okay. So if you have to write the JavaScript, you come to the content page of that individual website and then come to the advanced section, and here you find the custom JavaScript section. Okay. And in the custom JavaScript, you can write your document object model. So you can write your script here, jQuery, JavaScript, all are supported. And if you just go down, there is a custom CSS section where you can write your CSS as well. All right. So this is the two things. So I'm not going to write any code, of course, here because it's just a introduction session of all the components. But in the lab section, I will discuss about all this. So nowadays we have the integration with the VS Code as well. So you don't need to write your code here. You can simply, write your code in the VS Code and can directly sync it back to the Dataverse. So I'm not going to write the code here, but just to make you understand, like we have a custom JavaScript option and the custom CSS option, and you have to write it in the content page. But if you go to the general page, if you can see all the information that I have provided in the web page section, it's already there on the content page as well. Okay. Just one thing I wanted to highlight here, whatever forms, list or multi-step forms you are associating with the web page, just make sure you are associating the same thing on the each content page as well. Because sometimes what happen is, this is the web page, this is my parent web page. I associated a particular form on the parent page, but I forgot to associate that page at my localized content. Okay, it's not gonna display on the portal. As my personal experience, I spend around 1 or 2 hours of time just figuring it out, like how my form is not being displayed despite of it's connecting or it's associated already with the web page. So always remember, if you are associating any of these three components, just make sure and double check whether it's associated with the localized content as well. Okay. And if you have 5 localized content, it should be associated with the 5 localized content. Okay. Otherwise, let's say the English customers are able to see that web page, but the Swedish customers are not able to see that web page. Okay. So you can just troubleshoot in that way. All right, so this is about the web page. The title basically decide what you want to display, the page title that is going to display to the end users. Okay, because sometimes you want to show the heading of a particular web page, like what is the purpose of this web page, and you cannot show the name because name could be internal, it could be developer defined, so you cannot use the name. So that's why we have the title property. Okay, we have the copy HTML section where you are allowed to write the HTML code, CSS, JavaScript, and the liquid templates as well. Okay, so liquid template is the language that the portal uses, and we're going to discuss about that in the later videos. But just understand, like you can write your HTML, your CSS, custom JavaScript, everything here. Okay, this copy HTML is the common container where you can add the mix up of code of HTML, CSS, because you may have the question like I can write the script here, or I can write the script in the advanced section as well. How can I decide like which of the control I have to use it? So it depends whether you have to write only JavaScript, then you have to come to this section. Or if you have a particular scripting or CSS that you have to use along with the HTML code, then you cannot write it in this control. You have to go to this copy HTML section, and here you can write the mix up of your code. Okay, and here you can write the liquid templates as well. Okay, so this is about the copy HTML. So now there is one more thing in the web page. So I told you the basic property of the web page, and the only thing is the access control rule. So access control rule is basically a decider whether who can access this particular web page, right? So it doesn't mean that I have created a web page and it should be accessible to all the authenticated user. Okay, because sometimes what you want is, if I sign into the portal and I don't want this event list to be displayed to a specific group of user, no matter they are authenticated, they are registered on the portal, right? So these kind of requirements are quite common. You have to hide and show the web pages. You have to hide and show the content based on the user role and all. So for that purpose, we have the access control rule. I'm going to discuss about that in the security part, but just understand, like there is a setting here. You can enable multiple web control access control rule based on the number of roles. Like for this particular group of user, I want to display this. For this group of user, I don't want to display this. Then you can use this property. Now let's come to the basic forms. Okay, so basic form is basically is used when you have to display the form on the portal. Okay. Now, let's say I'm just opening in an existing form so that you can understand. So in the basic form, as I told you, it is basically used to display a particular form on the portal. Now here you have to provide the name of the form. The beauty of the basic form is that you don't need to create any HTML table or HTML control like text box, label, drop down that you used to do it in the .NET or in the HTML when you have to design any form, right? So you don't need to do it here because in the Dataverse you already creating the forms in the CRM. So you can simply create the forms within the Dataverse and you can use it on the portal. You can expose it to the portal. So you don't need to create or you don't need to worried about creating the responsiveness of it or how to create the labels or text boxes, drop down combo boxes and all. So whatever data type you already have in the Dataverse, whatever controls you already have in the Dataverse, you can use it on the form and can display it to the portal. Okay, so that's why we have the property called table name. So you have to choose the name of the table for which you want to use the form, and then you can use the form name because you can create multiple forms of a particular table. So let's say I already have the course table in my Dataverse environment. So here you can see all the tables available in my environment and which form you want to use it. So let's say if I choose the course table, so how many forms are there in the table? So I have three tables forms, delete, information, and the course form. Okay, so I have chosen this form. Now tab name. So when you create a form, you have multiple tabs, you have multiple sections. Okay. Now sometimes you have the requirement that all the tabs available in the forms you want to display over it. So you can just keep it blank. So it will display automatically all the tabs available on the form. But if you want to display on a specific tab, then you can choose that particular tab over here. Okay. So this is about the tab. Now there are different types of modes of the forms: edit, insert, and the read only. It basically decide the behavior of the form, how it will looks like on the portal. Okay, if you want to take the user input in the blank form, okay, and you want to insert the data in the database, so then you use the insert form like inquiry form, registration form, or the submissions form. So these kind of things you can use the insert form. Okay, edit and read only are basically used to view the data, right? Because edit is basically for the update purpose. So obviously you have to display some existing record or existing data to the customer. Okay, so edit is basically for that purpose. So for example, profile, right? Once the user do the registration using the registration form, you want them to edit the form, you want them to change their profile details like first name, last name. So in that case you can display the profile form in the edit format. Okay, read only is something that sometimes you have to display the information in the read only format so that your end customers or end user will not change the information in the Dataverse. So for example, you want to display the company form, okay, on the portal. In that company form, you want to display the company information like the company name, company website, company turnover, or the number of employees working in the company, the technology that company uses, and the job posting. So these kind of things you want to display on the portal, but you don't want user to change it, right? So in that case, you can display the company form in the read-only format. Okay. Now, in the case of insert, you don't need to provide anything, but in case of edit and the read-only, you need to provide like what kind of record you want to edit. Because if you have to edit the record, if you have to display any existing record, you have to provide the ID of that record, right? Because if you just aware about the Dataverse concept, when you insert any data in the Dataverse, it has a primary ID called GUID. It has a 32 digit of primary GUID that actually a unique identifier of that record. So anytime if I have to retrieve that particular record, whether using JavaScript, .NET code, or any of the platform, I need to have the GUID so that I can retrieve that record. So in the same way, in the portal, if I have to retrieve the record to display it in the edit format or in the read-only format, I have to choose the source type as a query string, and then I have to use the record ID parameter as ID. Okay. Now it is not always required that you have to use the query string. There could be multiple ways: current portal user and the record associated with the current portal user. So let's say you want to, display the profile page. Okay, current portal user means you want to display the current portal user record. Okay, now current portal user record is what? Current portal user is basically the contact information. So in the portal, whatever information you are storing related to the logged in user is stored in the contact table. Okay, so in the portal terminology, the logged in users are the contact. Right, in the CRM, we use the logged in user information in the system user table. Right, in the same way, in the portal we have the contact table. So all the user who are registered on the portal, regardless of whatever user identity they are using or authentication mechanism they are using, all the information is getting stored in the contact table. Okay, so if you have to allow user to edit their current contact record, you can use the current portal user. Okay, because sometimes your customer has the requirement that I want to create a custom profile page where user can update their own profile, where user can update their own contact details. So in that case, we have to use this current portal user. And record associated to the current portal user is basically used whenever you have to, display any data that is associated with your logged in user contact. Okay, so for example, I'm logged in on the portal and my contact record is Arpit. And let's say there are 4 cases or 4 leads or 4 opportunities as associated with my contact record. If I have to display on that to the portal, then I can use this option called record associate to the current portal user. So it depends like what kind of information you want to display on the portal. Okay, and in a different ways. So in the lab session, I'm going to discuss about that in more details, but just understand like what is the purpose of this basic form. The important setting on the basic form is the basic form metadata. So if I go here, there is a basic form metadata properties there. Okay, basic form metadata is basically used. So form basically has form will have multiple components. It has labels, it has text boxes, it will have lookups, it will have drop downs, it will have boolean field, right? So form will have multiple metadata. Okay, multiple metadata. So if you have to change the property of the metadata available on the form, you have to come to the basic form metadata. Okay, so metadata basically if you have to make the fields read only, or if you have to auto populate something, or if you have to clear the value of something, or if you have to perform any sort of validations, if you have to change the label of the form, if you have to change the label of the field, then these are the metadata properties. So for that purpose you have the basic form metadata. Now, the interesting fact is that we already have the properties and settings available at the Dataverse level as well. So let's say if I'm creating a field in the Dataverse. So while creating a field in the Dataverse, I have the option whether I want to keep it mandatory or I want to keep it optional. Okay, so let's say I am keeping it as optional in the Dataverse. But when I'm using that field on the portal form, I want to keep it mandatory. I want to keep it required. Okay, now how can I do that? So for that purpose, we have the basic form metadata. No matter what properties you have defined in the Dataverse, this basic form metadata properties works on top of the Dataverse property. Okay, so if you have such kind of requirement that you want to override the Dataverse property, then you can do that, because portal is going to be visible to the customer, but the dynamic CRM is basically visible to the internal user. And it always happens that some of the content, some of the labels, you want to keep it as a meaningful to your customer. Okay, so for example, like there is a field called email address. Okay, now for internal users, for database user, you want to keep the label as email address. That is fine. But if you want to expose that email address field on the portal form to the customer, you want to display it, enter your email address, right? So you want to keep your label different from the CRM. So in that case, you have to use the basic form metadata. So if you open the basic form metadata, you have to choose like which metadata property you want to change for this particular form. Whether you want to change the attribute, you want to change the notes, you want to change the section, you want to change the subgrid. or do you want to change the tab, or you want to change the timeline. Okay, so based on that, so based on the selection of a particular metadata, your properties gets changed. So if I choose the attribute, you have to choose the name of the attribute from here. Okay, and this will only display the list of attributes for this particular form. Okay, now I can change the label of this particular attribute. This will override the Dataverse label of the attribute. I can auto populate the value. I can set some default value on save of it. I can, the lookup setting is basically, whenever you are applying the property for the lookup field, you want to enable that user can directly create the data from the lookup. So for that purpose, it has a field. You want to show any sort of description on the attribute level, any sort of validation, you can put the regular expressions as well. You want to field the field required. So it doesn't matter whether the field is required or optional in the Dataverse level, but if you want to keep it required at the portal level, then you can use it. Okay, so there are list of properties you can investigate, or you can just do a quick research on it. So basic form metadata is about that. Okay, let's go back to our form and see what else is there. Now in the success setting, there is an option called uh, on success. So it decide basically once the form gets submitted, where what action you want to perform. Okay, so there are two options. You just only want to display the success message, then you can simply choose this option. But in most of the time, when you submit the details, that when the user submit the details, you want to either redirect them to the confirmation page where you can display them the, the some success message, thank you messages, or if it is if it is a request, then you want to show some request ID, something like that. So you have the option called redirect. Okay, so if you choose the redirect, you have the option whether you want to redirect user to the external URL, or you want to display the internal web pages. Okay, so this is the option you have. In the basic form also, you have the option to write the JavaScript as well. Okay, so I think it's the additional settings. Yeah. So if I go here, there is an option called custom JavaScript. So at the form level also, you can write your script, or same like the web pages. So it's a DOM supported script. So I just wanted to highlight that the script or the JavaScript that you're writing in the Microsoft Dataverse in the model driven app, that suppose that support the XRM model, it doesn't support on the portal. So you cannot use the XRM or form context or execution context kind of script here. So here you have to always write the DOM script. Okay, so document object model. So dollar JavaScript, or all sort of JavaScript jQuery function supported here. Okay, same like basic form, we have the multi-step forms. So in the multi-steps form, let's say you have to display, or if you have to take the user input in the multiple steps, then you have the multi-steps form. And here you can see it. The name is, whatever you want to keep it. Just make sure it should be meaningful. Website it is connected to. Now start step. Now there could be multiple steps, right? Because it has a multiple steps form. So I just click on this particular step 1, and here you can see it's same like the basic form. Okay, now here I can decide like what should be displayed on the step 1. It is basically the collection of multiple basic forms, you can say it like that as well. Okay, and each step can be associated to it, different pages or different forms. Okay, so in the basic form, the limitation is that it can only be stick to a particular table. So either the basic form can be of the contact, or can be the account, or the lead, or the opportunity. But if you want that the one basic form can connect to the multiple tables, then it is not possible, right? But that is possible only in the multi-steps form, because in the multi-step form, in the each step, you can decide whether you want to display the tab, whether you want to display the form, or whether you want to conditionally redirect the user to a different page. Okay, so you have the condition option as well. So sometimes it happens like if uh, if a particular checkbox is true, then you don't want user to fill the step 2, you want to redirect them directly to the step 3, right? So such kind of things, if you want to skip a particular step based on a particular condition, Then you have the condition option as well. Okay, we'll discuss about that when we're gonna have the practical session of it. But these are the components properties of it. You can decide the table. Then another step is the next step. Okay, so step one is already there. We want to display the appointment form here. Now in the next step, I want to display the different things. So here I'm displaying the load form again, and in the step 3 there is a confirm box. So you can imagine like I can link multiple steps and each time have the option to display the different tables. It's up to me whether I have to use the same table across all the steps, or I can use the different tables as well. Okay, now the important thing is that in the multi-step forms, in the each step you have the option to write the script as well. Okay, so I think in the additional functionality column, probably if I go down, okay, developer extension, no, form action. Yeah. So under the form option, you have the custom JavaScript. So you can write your script here as well. So on each and every step, you have the custom JavaScript option as well. So it's up to you whether you want to, customize something on that is not available out of box. But at the form level, you have one more property called start new session on load, or multiple records per user permit. So basically this is related to the session. So what happen is sometimes you have filled only two steps, and you just close the form, you just close the browser, and next time you want that you start filling the data from the step 2 onwards, right? So for this purpose you have the start new session on load property. If you choose it yes, then it automatically load the new form, no matter whether you have fill the first step, two steps, doesn't matter. But if you keep it as a no, then every time it will start a new session. Okay. Another important property is the progress indicator. Progress indicator is very important property. It just display the progress of the form. Okay, so it has a different types of indicators. Whether you want to show the title on the form, so it will display like on which step you are right now, on the step 1 or in the step 2 or in the step 3. It will just show the title of the each step, numeric progression and the progress bar. Okay, so there are different types of progress you can show it to the user. So for this purpose, you have the multi-step form. The next thing is the list. Okay, so whatever information you are submitting using basic forms or the multiple step form, you want to display the data to it. So like here, you can see it. I can see the list of data. In the similar way, if I have to display the list of data on the portal, then I can use the list. Okay. First of all, I need to have the understanding of the components, like which component I have to use it, right? Then I can start doing the customization, right? So it is very important that you should understand the component first, the significance, the importance, the uses of the component first. Then it's becomes very easy to design the portal. Okay, so list is similar like the form. The only thing is that you need to choose the views instead of forms. Okay, so obviously, if you have to display the list of records, you need the views, because in the CRM, views is the only control or the component that display the list of records. Okay. So in the table, I have to choose the name of the table for which I have to use the views. So here I can see all the views available for this particular table. So I can create my own views as well. And the beauty of that, if I have to display the list of records, I don't need to create any HTML table or subgrade, or any sort of custom coding. I don't need to do it. Same like the JavaScript or in the .NET in other language, I can reuse the same view that I'm using in the Dataverse on the portal. Okay, not only the views, all the properties of the views. So for example, the columns width or the name of the column or the filter criteria. So there are a lot of properties are there. I'm going to discuss about that in the lab session, but there are a lot of properties of views are already there in the Dataverse environment. So we can reuse the same property here as well. Okay. Now in the list, since we are showing the list of records, so we need to show the search option as well so that I can search through all the records. So we have the option of searching as well. I think, yeah, this is the one. You just need to enable this option. what sort of placeholder text or what sort of tool tip text you want to show it. You just write it over here. You have the option of page size as well, how many records you want to display in the list from the performance point of view. So 10 is the default size, but you can display 50, 100. But I just wanted to ensure like, just avoid using large number here, because otherwise it's gonna take a lot of time to display the records. Okay, so it's up to you, but the default page size is 10. Then if your records is more than 10, then it automatically shows the pagination. And just imagine if you have to create any HTML grid just to display the data, you have to create your own pagination mechanisms as well. So some of the features like 70 to 80 features, 80% features, you get it out of box. And unless there is a specific need from your client side to customize the component, then only you have to do it. Otherwise, you can just use it default. Same like other option, you have the option, in the list, you have the option called custom JavaScript. And here you can also write your script, same like the web pages, the multiple step forms and the basic forms. Okay. The most important property of the list is uh, probably, if I can just go up, general section. Yeah, exactly. The filters. Okay. So because it's just a list, and it can have the multiple data available in the list, and you want that user should see the filter criteria in the left panel. Okay, or in the horizontal panel. So if you have seen some of the large website like Amazon, okay, and here there you always get the option to filter the data, to filter the records based on the dates, or based on the product prices, based on the the product launch date. So there are multiple criterias based on the prices as well. Or if you are let's say you are booking a flight, so there are a lot of flight booking sites, and there you get the option whether you need the one stop layover flight, two stop layover flight, or the flight price duration, and the number of stops you want to take, and the choices of flights you want to take. So this is the example of the filter criteria you takes when you see the list of data. Okay, so in the similar way, we have the different types of filter criteria available when you see the list of data. Text filter, this is basically applicable on the test tab of data. Lookup filters, range filters for a specific range. Dynamic pick list, it's a drop down kind of thing. So if you have some custom filter that doesn't suffix your out of box capabilities, then you can use the fetch XML filters as well. Okay, so different types of fetch XML. Sorry, the criteria fetch XML filter. You can just click on this option here, and you can download the fetch XML. So you can create. You can go to the advanced find, create your own fetch XML query, download that, and you can just simply use it here. Okay, so this is about that. Another important property is the map view. Okay, sometimes you don't want to display simply the data in the list format. You want to display the data under the map, right? So in that case, you have the map enabled. So let's say you are displaying the list of all the ATMs, okay, where you can withdraw the money, right? Or you want to display the list of all the hospitals or list of schools, but you don't want to display them in the simple list format. You want to display them within the map, right? So for example, I am creating a portal where I want that customer can see like what are the nearest hospitals uh, from my location, what are the nearest ATMs from my location. So in that case, you want to display that information within the map, right? So you can simply enable the map view, and you have to choose the latitude field name and the longitude field name, and then you can display that information uh, you know on the map. So latitude field name, you have to select it based on the forms you have selected on, based on the table you have selected on the top. Now, same like the map view, if you have to display the information in the calendar, okay. Now, what is the requirement of calendar? So if you have to create a same view like the Outlook, like in the Outlook, you see the information, you see your all the events, your meetings, right, in the calendar view. Like on the 3rd of January, how many events are there, how many meetings I have. Tomorrow, how many events are there, how many events or the meetings are there. So in that purpose, you use the calendar view. Okay, so let's say I'm creating a portal for the hospitals. Okay, and in that hospitals, the patients logs into the portal, and they just wanted to see the availability of a doctor. Okay, so I can show the availability of the doctor in the calendar view, where they can see it like this doctor is available in this particular dates, so that they can directly book the appointment. So it's up to you. It's basically just to enhance the UI of your portal, right? Because sometimes just to create the calendar view or the map view, you need a lot of development efforts, right? So it just enabled out of box in the list, so you can just use it. Okay, now, the next topic, the next components. So these are the basic components I have just discussed that we mostly use it on the portal. But there are some of the components like the web link sets. Okay, so web link set is nothing. It is just basically used to display the toolbar or the menu on the portal. Okay, so if you can see here on the header, there is a toolbar called home, the sign in option, and you can create multiple menu over here. Okay, so for that purpose, you have the web link set. So there are different types of web link sets are there, and Microsoft has just grouped them in a different web link sets. So let's say if I talk about the primary navigation. So primary navigation is basically the web link set that actually used to display the menu option on the primary navigation section. Okay, so this is my portal UI, and this section is called primary navigation. Okay, so this home, there is a bar, you can see it over here, right? So all the menus that display just left side to this particular bar will come under the primary navigation. Okay, and anything you want to see it after this bar is under the profile navigation. Okay, and if you want to display the navigation in the a menu or toolbar in the footer, then you have to use the footer web link set. So you can see it over here. Probably if I can just edit filter, because I just wanted to show only for my website. So I'm just choking this and ASP and just applying this. So, okay, now you can see it for my website. There are 5 types of web link sets are there. So it basically depends where you want to display your menu. So in most of the cases, we have to display the menu on the top, okay, and on the footer or in the profile. So let's say I'm just logging into the portal. So I'm just using the Azure AD login. Authentication, I'm going to discuss about that in the security section. Okay, so you can see now home and my registration are basically the primary navigation links, and this my profile attendee information, this is basically the profile navigation. Okay, so if I have to display the links or display the menu or the toolbar under this drop down, then I have to go with the profile navigation. Okay, if I have to use or create the links here in the primary navigation section, then I have to use the primary navigation. If I have to use in the footer, then you have to use the footer section. Okay, so let's say if I'm using the primary navigation, and in the primary navigation, again, I have some basic details like the name of it, which website is associated, it should be published, the language of it. And here you have the option to call copy HTML, same like the web page if you have to customize something. But the main thing is the links, that how many links you want to display under the primary navigation. So right now there are 2 links, home and the my registration. So you can see 2 links over here. Now you can do the nesting as well. So let's say in the my registration, I want to see a drop down so that I can see the child links as well. So I can open the my registration. Okay, and in the particular link as well, I can decide that what action I want to perform. So for example, if I click on my registration, and on click of my registration, what action I want to perform, whether I want to redirect user to the external page or external URL out of my portal or website, or I want to simply display some internal web pages. Okay, so that I can decide over here. So this is just a simple information about the link, my registration, web link set, from which it is associated, state. Since it is a parent one, so there is no parent of it, because parent web link we have to choose it for the child web links always. Okay, so since it is always a parent, so I don't want to create a parent web link of it, but page. Uh, I am just choosing a page because I want to display my registration option when I click on this particular page. So when I click on my registration, it display the my registration web page. Okay. If I want to redirect user to a different web page, not that is not a part of portal, then I can provide some external URL as well. Okay. I can simply decide the ordering of this web links as well, like whether I want to display in the, because right now it's in the second order, that means from left to right it is in the second place. Okay, if I want to put it in the first place, then I have to keep its order to 1. Sometimes we have to display only the image of the web links, not the label of it. So for that purpose, we have the option called robot follow links, and no, sorry, the image URL. So image URL, you can just keep paste the URL of the image, and you can set the height and the width of it. Okay, or display image only, basically display only the image. It doesn't display the label of it. Okay, now how I can give the image URL, I can show it to you in the upcoming sessions, but the image you have to store it in the web files. Okay, so I'm going to discuss about that as well, that how the web file works. But this is about the web link. Now if I have to create the child links of this web page, I have to go to the related tab in the child link section. I can create multiple child links as well, but the main thing is that only one level of nesting is possible. That means only one level of child links can be shown. So for example, I can only show the child links of my registration only. The child of child links is not possible. That means the two level of nesting is not possible. Although it doesn't restrict you in the Dataverse, you can create any level of nesting in the Dataverse or in the web links. At the component level, you can create nesting of multiple web links, but at the portal level, it only renders one level of what I can say, the nesting of it. Okay. But the beauty of that, you can create your own child links as well. You can create your own web links as well. So it doesn't restrict you that you have to always choose this primary navigation or profile navigation or the footer to design your navigation bar. You can create your own navigation as well. Okay, so it required some custom JavaScript, CSS, HTML. So that is also I'm going to demonstrate to you. I've already posted on my website as well. Probably you can check that as well. But in my later session, I'll show that to you, that if you are not interested to use the out of box way of web links, like primary, profile, and the header, you can create your own the hamburger icon in the left panel. It will open a toggle format in the left panel, and you can show it like that. Okay, so this is about the web links, how you can show it, the web links. Now the web files. So web file is nothing, it's just a container. So as you can see it with the name, understand with its name, it actually a container which holds the files. Now what could be the files? The files could be the image files. That could be the PNG, SVG, or GIF or GPG, whatever image format you have. So it actually holds the files, which could be the images, which could be the CSS, and which could be the JavaScript file. Okay, so it's up to you that what kind of file you want to store it. And it actually allow you to store the file either in the Dataverse or in the Azure Blob storage. Okay, so for example, if I'm opening this web file, or you have to create your own web file, you have to provide the name of it, some meaningful name. Partial URL is something that is basically used to refer this particular image. Okay, because if you are familiar with the HTML, you need the src attribute or tag just to refer that particular image, right? So if you are using this image, or if you are just using this particular image in a particular URL like image tag in your web page, then you have to always use this partial URL, okay, to simply refer it to it. So for example, if I have to write the HTML code like this, img, src equal to, then I have to use like this. So this could be my URL for the images. Okay, now it depends on the parent page. So since it is the URL, the partial URL of the page is associated with my root page. Okay, the home page. So I can only put the slash. But just imagine the parent page is something else. So let's say my parent page is let's say ABC. Okay, so then I have to provide the URL something like that. Sorry, yeah. So I need to provide the parent page, then I have to use the partial URL. Okay, but in case of home page, I don't need to provide the the parent page name because it's always a root page, so I can directly give it like this. So let's say if I have to display this image to the portal, I can simply copy this, go here after the portal URL, put slash, paste it over here and enter. So you can see this is the image, admin header image that I can see. Okay. Now, if I go to the notes, whatever image is there, I have to associate here. Okay. So admin header PNG is basically the name of the image, and I have to upload the image in the note section. So sometimes uh, you don't want to store the images in the data bus just to increase the capacity of the data bus, then you have the option to storage in the cloud blob storage as well. So you can just provide the address of the blob storage, and you can keep your all the files over there, so you can avoid increasing the capacity of the dataverse. Okay, so this is about the web files. Now the rest of the next component is the web templates, very important component. But let me explain the content snippet first before explaining it to the web content. Now content snippet is basically, as you can understand with its name as well, content snippet is basically used to manage the content of the portal. Okay, so there are many business use cases where you have to display the content on the portal. Now, content and data is something different. Data is basically something that is stored on the table at the dataverse level, like account, contact, right? That can be that data can be secure, or that data can be confidential, right? Something like that. But content is something, sometimes you have to display some static content, sometimes you have to display some dynamic content, some sort of content on the portal, some text messages on the portal, some string messages on the portal. Now this content can have some your error messages, right? Your greeting messages. So as soon as you logs into the portal, there you want to display some greeting message, some welcome messages to the user, right? So these kind of things you want to display on the portal. Sometimes you are working for the retail website and you have to display some static content on the welcome page or on the home page, and that you want to keep on changing every month or every year based on the new product launch, or based on some new discount offer which is going on in your organization. So this is about that. Okay. So one example I just wanted to give you, but before that, the content snippet, let me open one content snippet. Let's say this one. Okay. Now in this content snippet, you have to provide the name of the content. The website is associated to the display name of that particular content snippet. So these are basic things. Now there are basically two type of content snippet you can create in the portal, either of text type or either of HTML type. Okay. Text type is basically used in most of the cases. Like here, there is an email label I'm using. Okay. So let's say I'm writing a JavaScript code. I'm just taking a very, simple example. Let's say I'm writing a JavaScript code or liquid template code, and uh, in that code, I just want to, throw an error message to the user if the email is not in the correct format or whatever it is. Okay. And I'm just throwing that error message in the English language. Okay. And let's imagine I have the 5,000 line of code or 10,000 line of code, and I'm throwing the error message 5 to 10 times after each and 5 or 6 lines, right? So I have a lot of error message I have thrown in my 5 to 10,000 line of code. And every time I'm just throwing the error message in the English language. Now just imagine after 1 or 2 years, my customer wants to enable some additional language in the portal environment. So they want to enable the Swedish language as well. Now they want like the error message text should be in the Swedish language. Now just imagine you are the developer, you have written a lot of code in your portal, and you need to scan through all your code wherever you have written the English translation error messages, right? And you have to conditionally put or throw the error message. If the Swedish user is logged in, then you have to throw the message in the Swedish language. If the English user is logged in, then you have to throw the message in the English language. And if you have to imagine 10 languages enabled, so it's gonna be a very difficult task for you, right? So you can avoid doing this kind of activity by using the content snippet, because in the content snippet, you can see there is a language is associated with that. OK, you can simply create a content snippet of type text. OK, and here you can simply provide your error message or the text or the content that you want to display to the user, and you can choose the language. So let's say if I have to use the 5 error message for different language, I will create the 5 content snippet. OK, and will choose a different language for each content snippet, and here I can provide the value. OK, so I don't need to worry about that. I just need to refer my content snippet by its name. OK, so the name will always be remain same, and you don't need to conditionally check like user, the logged in user is Swedish user or the logged in user is the English user. The portal will automatically detects the user language, and it will automatically render the associated content snippet to it. OK, so this is the beauty of the content snippet, but this is about the text, but you can also use the HTML as well. OK, so HTML is very important, especially when you are writing the reusable code. OK, so for example, like I'm choosing the HTML, and uh, let's say I am just doing the email validation. OK, now this email validation, I have to write 10 to 20 line of code where I'm just writing the regex expression. I'm just checking the format of the email and just throwing the error message. Now this email validation has 10 to 15 line of code, and I have, let's say, 20 web pages available on the portal. Now on every web pages, I cannot write the 10 or 20 line of code or copy paste the code on the each web pages, right? It's not a good practice to write the same code on each web pages. So rather I can use the content snippet. I can write my reusable code over here, and I can refer this particular validation or the HTML code on the different web pages using my content snippet name. OK, so these are the some of the example. Now sometimes you want to display the content on the portal and want user to directly edit that. OK, you might have worked with the WordPress probably. If not, then sometimes it happens like I'm on the portal, and let's say let me go here. OK, so let's say the Power Pages events. OK, so this is the header, or this is the the title of the page. Now what I want is when the admin or when Arpit is logged in on the portal, if they want to change the title of this page, they can directly do it from here itself, rather going to the Dataverse, or rather going to the in the Dynamic 365 or in the Dataverse to change that label. So content snippet is basically provide that capabilities as well. OK, that you can directly edit your content directly from the portal. The only thing is that you need to create the content snippet. OK, and this Power Pages event, you have to create it as a content snippet of type text, and there is a website access permission. OK, in the website access permission, you need to enable the website access permission for your user in order to allow editing of the content. OK, so if I am just opening, let's say I'm just opening this. So here you can see manage content snippet. Okay, so this manage content snippet makes sure that you can directly edit your content directly from the portal, but you need to have the appropriate role associated to it. So I can see here right now only administrator can, access the content management. So this is about that. In the practical lab session, we will discuss about that in the in more deep dive way, like how we can edit the contents and on the content snippet. Okay. Now let's come to the web template. So that is the one that is left only from the content part. Web template is basically used to write the custom code specifically. Okay, there might be a lot of requirement you can come across where you have to design the custom page, complete custom page. You are not satisfied, your customer is not agree to use the out of box components like forms, pages and all, or they want to use those components but they want to customize that as per their need. They want to display over the portal as per their own need, right? So for example, I am creating a form but they want to display the multiple basic forms on the page. Okay, but out of box you can associate only one basic form to a particular page, but your customer wants like multiple forms should be displayed on the particular page. The user should be able to see the inquiry form, complete form and the feedback form on the same page. So such kind of requirement, you have to customize the things. You have to just do a simple tweak. You have to use the out of box components also, but you have to do some sort of customization to it, right? Or if you have to write your own, if you have to design your own custom, page where you want to use the liquid template, you want to display some dynamic content, you want to use the forms, you want to use the list, you want to write your own HTML, CSS, JavaScript, everything you want to do it and want to design a custom page, then you always go with the web template. Okay, because web template you can see here, it's not associated with anything. Okay, you just need to provide the name, you just need to provide the website to which you want to associate with, and then you have the source option. Here you can write your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or you can write your own liquid template as well. Along with that, it also provide you the fetch XML capabilities as well. Okay, because sometimes you have to design your page, then for that purpose you need to pull the data from the dataverse, right? You have to retrieve the data. Now to retrieve the data, it supports the fetch XML as well. So you can go to the advanced find, and in the advanced find, you can query the particular table and you can download the fetch XML. And as it is fetch XML, you can use it in the source. Okay. So again, I'm saying like for the understanding purpose, just understand what is web template and what is it used for. But in the practical lab session, I will discuss about that as well when I'm going to design the portal, how we're going to use the web template. But web template is one of the best component in the portal, which is the most used component on the portal where you can write your own code. Okay. Now we have seen in the website, we have two types of web templates available already. So this is the header and this is the footer. Okay. Now in the header, if you can see here, okay, there is nothing in the header for this website. Let me see if the footer is there. Or probably we can. Okay. So if you can see here in the header section, we have you can see here there is a liquid template syntax is written. Okay. And some HTML is written. Okay. And if I go down, the JavaScript is written, right? So this is the default template. So this is one of the best way to learn like how to use the web templates, because sometimes you have the requirement to mix the code of liquid template. You have to retrieve the dynamic content and you have to write the HTML as well. So in that purpose, you have to use the header. So header and footer are the two default web templates available. And in the footer also you can see it. There is a script is written, there is a JavaScript is written, and there is HTML is written, and the liquid template is written. One of the major advantage of using the web template is you can simply refer the other components also. in the web template. Okay, the first advantage, you can use the fetch XML. Okay, that is one of the most important advantage because no other components can use the fetch XML. But the web template here, you can write your fetch XML to query the data. Second important thing is that it can bring the data from other components as well. Okay, now how it can bring the data from other components? So for example, settings. Okay, I think site setting. So I haven't discussed about the site setting, but I'm going to discuss about that soon. But site settings, if I have to retrieve the site setting value, you can see it. I can directly fetch it using the liquid template syntax code. Okay, or probably if I go to the footer, you can see content snippet. So footer is already a content snippet available in my portal. So if I want to retrieve it within my web template code, I can simply use it like this editable snippet. Snippet is basically referring to the content snippet. So as I told you, content snippet is basically used to use the reusable HTML content as well. So now you can see here I'm already writing my HTML code, but some of my HTML I want to keep it reusable. So I just kept it in the content snippet, and while writing in the web template, I just included that content snippet by just by its name. So footer is the content snippet is already there by type HTML, and I just included that. So probably this footer content snippet can have 1,000 line of code. I probably would have write the 1,000 line of code here as well and in my another web template as well. But instead of doing that, I can keep it as a content snippet. I can just refer it in my web template. Okay. So web template is about that, where I can write the fetch XML, I can write the liquid templates, and where I can write the HTML, CSS, and everything. And I can associate this web template to the page template. So there is no direct option that web template can be associated with the web page. Okay, web template can only be associated with the page template. Now in the page template, as I already discussed with you, that page template is basically used to decide like how you want to display that particular content to the web pages. So if I go to the page template, any of the page template I can open. In this page template, some of the basic details are there like name, website, uh, and the table name. That is fine. But the most important thing is the type of the page template and the rewrite URL. Okay. Now, as I told you, how my web pages will look like on the portal, how the content of the web page will look like on the portal is basically depend on the page template. It is basically the template which actually decide the format of the page. Now, some of the page template are decided at the server side level. We cannot change it. So what are the page template that are decided at the server side level? This is the page template. If you can see here, the ASPX page path is defined here. That means this is a server side ASPX page available. Some .NET page is there. So that obviously I cannot change it, which is written in the server side. Okay, so I have to use it like this only. But if I have to override this, if I am not satisfied with the UI of this, then I can simply choose the web template option on the page template. Okay, so page template basically associate your web page with the web template using the this option, page template option. Okay, so if you are using the rewrite option, then you have to use the SPX option. Or if you want to use the web template, then you have to choose the web template and you have to choose the web template that we just created. Okay. And if you want to create the website, sometimes you are creating a web page and you don't want to show the header and the footer. Then you can choose this option, use website header and footer. Where it is used, like sometimes you are creating a web page or you are using the web page in the form of model pop-up. Okay. Or you are creating a web page in the form of dialog. Okay. And since it's a web page, so it will always be rendered with the header and the footer. But if you are displaying it in the pop-up box or in the model box, then you don't want to use the footer and the header two times, right? So you can just uncheck these options that time. Or if you are using that web page as a standalone page, then you can always use this option. Site markers and the site settings. Now, site settings is basically the key value pair. Okay, so whenever you have, if you might have worked with the .NET or probably in some other languages, you have seen like some of the settings you can keep it in the configuration. Okay, so that some of the default behavior of the sites you don't want to change it frequently, so you want to keep it in the settings so that you can just refer that setting to customize your or behavior of your entire website. Okay, so let me give a simple example. Like I want to enable the Facebook login onto the portal. So for example, like this is my portal, and if I can see here, by default, I have the local authentication, and in the external authentication, I only have the Azure AD login. Okay. Authentication and authorization, I will discuss about that in the later section, but just imagine like this is the login page, and there are two types of login, local and the external one. Now in the external, I only have Azure AD, but just imagine my client wants to enable the Facebook and the Twitter as well. Okay, so by just only have to enable two additional identity provider, I cannot write and go to my server side and write 1,000 line of code and take 1 month of time to implement this requirement, right? I need to have some sort of settings or the configuration so that if the customer wants to enable them, I can just simply enable those options, and it will be available on the portal. So it's not only about the login authentication. There are lots of behavior of the portal. You want to change it. There are lots of behavior of the website. You want to change it by just doing the simple settings. Okay. So these kind of settings, you can keep it in the site settings. Okay. So that doesn't means that site setting is only used for managing the authentication related stuff. It's not that. Authentication is one of the example I have just given, that you can manage it using site settings because it is the part of settings. That's why you can keep it using site settings. But there are a lot of things like how you want to keep your cookies, how you want to, you know, uh, how you want to keep the cookies, how you want to manage the session expiration time, or sometimes you can see the list of all the things here. The most of the things are related to the 467 site settings. You can see it over here, and each has some different purpose. So for example, if you can see, so Facebook related site settings are there, and then OpenAuth, Facebook related site setting, then LinkedIn related site settings are there. So site setting is basically the key value pair. So if I have to create any new site setting, you can only have two options: name and the value, and the obviously the website to which you want to associate with, but the name and value. So it's a key value pair. Okay, so most of the site settings are just a Boolean field, true or false. You want to enable this or you want to turn off this, right? Something like that. Or one of the most important setting is, for example, like this is my authentication page, and I want that the user should always be login or register using external providers. For example, Azure AD, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. I don't want to enable the local sign-in option. Okay. Now for this, you don't need to write any script or you don't need to write any sort of code. Okay. Uh, it's just a feature. So if I can just go here and search, probably open or probably the local, because it's a local authentication, right? So if I search the settings, you can see here registration local login enabled, right? Registration local login enabled. So this is just a setting that is basically decided whether you want to display this local sign-in option or not, whether you want to display this local registration process or not. Okay, so if you because the right now its value is true, that means you can see the local login option on the portal. But if you just want to disable this option or you just want to entirely remove this option, you can just keep its value to false. Okay, and this will be completely removed from the portal. Then the user can only be sign in or register using external account. So this is the beauty of the site setting, and based on my personal experiences, you can use the site setting for your own purpose as well. Okay, because there are many business requirement where you are writing a code, JavaScript, liquid template code, and you need to keep some configurations in the form of key value pair. Then you can keep it in the site settings as well. right? Because sometimes let's say you are calling any external API through your JavaScript code. And in order to call that API, some of the API related configuration like the URL of it, the API key, or the header information, or there could be many information as well. And you want to, and you don't want to keep that information hard coded or static in your JavaScript code, because that could be changed when it moves to the another environment. So you can keep it in the site setting so that you don't need to change your code whenever any changes in the API keys or in the URL. You can just open the site setting and just can simply change that URL. Okay, and I already shown you that how you can directly use the site setting within your web templates, right? So you don't need to query anything, or you don't need to write the fetch XML in order to retrieve the value of the site setting. You can just simply use the keyword settings and the name of it in order to refer it in your code. Okay, so that is the beauty of the site setting. Site markers. Site markers is very important thing. Site marker is basically it is actually a reference of a web pages. Okay, so let's say if you can see here, access denied. So if I open the access denied page, you can see it has only three fields: the name of the site marker, the website that is common, but the page which it is associated to. Okay, so site markers doesn't have much. It is only a reference of a page. Okay, so basically it automatically takes you to the different pages. So let's say you are writing a code where you have to redirect user to a different pages. So what you will do, either you will use window.redirect and hard coded the URL of the web page, the partial URL of the web page. It's not a good approach because partial URL can be changed in the future. Okay, so then your code will not work, right? So instead of hard coding the URL, the best way to do that is using site markers, right? So if you are using anchor tag, or you have to redirect the user, instead of writing the web page URL hard coded, you just give the name of the site markers. Okay, and that site markers is automatically associated with a particular web page. Okay, if you want to create a custom site markers and want to create associate with a custom web page, that is also possible. But always use the site markers if you have to refer to a particular web page in whatever business requirement you are using. Redirection is one of the way. Anchor tag or window.redirect is just a way. Okay. The last two things I want to discuss is the web roles and the table permissions. Okay, the rest of the things are basically we're going to use it at the time of practical implementation. But then the security section, the basic thing is the table permission, and the web role. So first is the web role. So web role is basically like the security role in the Dynamics 365 on the Dataverse, that basically decide like what you can do it in the Dataverse, what can you can do it with the Dataverse data. So there are basically three types of roles automatically gets created when you install the portal. One is administrator. Okay, administrator is the role that can do anything on the portal. There is no restriction. The second role is the anonymous user. The anonymous user is the one who cannot do anything on the portal, which is not logged into the portal. Okay, so right now I'm using the portal as an anonymous user because I have not signed into the portal. Okay, the last one is the authenticated user. So there are basically three types of web roles: authenticated, anonymous, and the administrator. Administrator can do anything. Anonymous user who is not logged into the portal, and authenticated is basically who is registered on the portal and logged into the portal. Okay. Now, based on this web role, what permission you want to provide them is basically decided based on the table permissions. So table permission basically decide what action you can perform. So for example, like if I'm opening the contact, this one, so in the table permission, you just choose the table name and what permission you want to provide them to the user, whether you want to allow to read permission, create permission, append permission, write, delete, or the append to. Okay. Now it doesn't mean that you provided the read permission that this particular user or role can read all the table records. It basically decide based on the access type. If it is a global, then it can access all the data. If it is a contact, then it can only access the data associated with the logged in contact record. If it is an account, then it can only access the data which is associated with the logged in contact account record. And if it is a parent, then it is basically used in the case of child parent relationship. Okay, so for example, I have to display the notes associated with the contacts, then I have to use the parent relationship. Self is basically used when you have to display your own contact record. So for example, I am logged into the portal, I have to display only my contact record, so no one else can update my contact or read my contact details. So for that purpose, I have to use the self. Okay. So what kind of privileges you will have on a particular table, it basically decide on the access type. Okay. So this is about the table permission, but table permission will not be applicable unless you associate with the web role. So in the table permission, you have to go to the related section, go to the web roles, and you have to associate with the particular web role. So three web roles are out of box there, but you can create your own web role as well. Okay. So that is about that. So table permission and that web page access control rule that I was discussing about while explaining the web pages. So when I open any web page access control rule, you have to given the name of it, the website. Now, on which web page you want to control the access. So for example, if you have to hide and show the web pages based on a particular role, then this web page access control rules comes to the picture. Okay, so you have to use the particular web page and there is an option called write and restrict read and grant change. Okay, so whether you want to restrict the read access on the particular page or you want to grant the change permission on that. Okay, now this only applicable when you apply the web roles to it. Okay, so for example, I want to associate this web page, admin home page, with this particular web role with this permission, restrict read. That means this particular web page will only be accessible to this particular role, except that for everyone, this should be restrict read. Okay, it's opposite actually. Okay, so if you have associated this restrict read to this particular web role, that means whoever user who is having this particular role can access this web page. Rest of the user who have not this particular role will not be able to access this particular web page. Okay, so this is about the web page of access control rule. So the security is one of the major topic, and I have kept it as a separate chapter or a separate video for that. So I'm not diving deep in the security because security we're going to discuss about in the more deep dive manner. So this is just a very high level introduction of all the components of the security, the content level, but we're going to discuss about more about the security stuff in the upcoming video. So stay tuned for that. Okay. So these are the basic components that is basically there with any websites. Okay. Now let's go back to our slide deck. And I think we are done for the day. So this is all about the components I had to discuss. And I think I've covered all the components. I just wanted to tell you, like, just created a trial environment. Okay, and just to start exploring all the components. And if you have any questions, just post me on the comment. Okay, I'll answer that. And please don't forget to share your valuable feedback and just hit subscribe, and it will encourage me to create the great content for you. And you won't believe, just to create this slide deck, it takes 3 days of time, and it's a very hard to get the best content to produce for the audience like you. So just to encourage me, just share your valuable feedback and just subscribe, and just stay tuned for the next video, because in the next video we're going to discuss about the licensing of the Power Pages. I know, like, licensing is one of the most important topic, and it's a mystery till now, but I'm going to discuss about a lot of things about the licensing, and we have some FAQs that I've also got covered for you. So stay tuned for the next video where we're going to discuss about the licensing. Till then, take care, stay safe. Bye bye.